Hey, what's up, mortals? It's FalonEcho here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 5 of What If Deku Became an Android? I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. Izuku Midoriya didn't very much enjoy school for most of his life. He had been a victim of intense bullying after all. For him, all school meant was torment. And for his first day at UA, he was similarly tormented, but not from the outside. Jiro's words hadn't left his ears. It doesn't sound natural. What really happened during those 8 months? Izuku wondered. Something unnatural. And that's when something shocking clicked in Izuku's mind. Unnatural. That word completely encapsulated how his mother had been acting ever since he'd awoken. Maybe she knew more than he did. Maybe whatever happened to him happened to her too. What was going on? Those thoughts stayed at the forefront of his mind throughout most of the day. While in the classes that one would find in a regular high school, Izuku was unable to concentrate long enough to say his full name without zoning out into his existence-questioning train of thought. But this next class in particular had him excited like he'd never been before. Hero Training Class. Despite his entire existence getting turned on its head only a few hours ago, the thoughts were pushed to the back of his mind with each step he took towards the classroom. No doubt waiting to resurface later at night when he would try to go to sleep. But it was too early to think about that. All he felt now was hype. This is the class where I'll start to learn how to become a hero. He was early, as he noticed most of his classmates weren't at their seats. This is it, he thought. The greenette was afraid he would squeal like a little girl when the teacher arrived, regardless of who it was. Although there was a certain symbol of peace he was hoping would be the one to instruct them. Izuku couldn't sit still in his seat, as he kept his eyes locked on the clock, waiting for the time when the teacher was scheduled to begin the lesson. His classmates entered the room one after another. Bakugo's hands were surrounded in sparks as he saw Midoriya's face, and Jiro gave him a small smile. From the way Ida looked at him, one would have assumed he was a ghost of one of the bespectacled boy's loved ones. Uraraka scoffed and crossed her arms as Deku offered her an apologetic wave of his hand. And then it happened. Once every student in the class was seated, the door flung open once more. There, in an extravagant and flamboyant hero suit, the #1 hero himself, All Might, burst into the room, yelling his signature catchphrase, "I am here!" The following 2 seconds were the happiest in Izuku's life. He was in UA, he had the power to become a hero, and he was going to be taught by All Might. What was there not to be happy about? Then, the greenette actually looked at his idol, the symbol of peace in the flesh standing before him. The moment he laid eyes on the iconic smile and hero costume of the #1 hero, his head erupted into a level of pain he'd never felt before. A level of bloodlust the boy had not even been able to imagine before was trying to take over. It was all he could do to stop himself from charging and firing a full-power justice cannon at All Might, as though that would do anything. What's going on? Deku thought. He could barely hear and his vision was tunneling around All Might. It was as if every cell of his body wished to annihilate the symbol of peace. With great effort, he managed to pull his eyes off his teacher and stared at the blackboard to his right. And that's all there is to it. Now go grab your costumes, heroes! All Might finished before leaving the room. Izuku watched, confused, as his classmates left the class. Whatever happened to him had apparently lasted through all of All Might's explanation of whatever they were supposed to be doing.
Izuku Midoriya, you seem to be very distracted during all of Professor All Might's explanations. I implore you to pay more attention in class,
Tenya Ida said before leaving the room. Deku simply looked around, dumbfounded, head still sore from what had just happened. First, he was seeing things with the piece of debris, then the engine inside of him. Now this? What was he? As he stood, he felt a light tap on his shoulder. What happened to you back there? Yokojiro asked. Izuku turned to look at her. She stepped back, surprised by the look of raw fear on Izuku's face. You all right? Actually, you don't even need to answer that. You're not all right. The purple-haired girl answered. I'm not sure. It was like my body was trying to move on its own, and my brain was trying to stop it. I'm sorry, but that's the best I can
describe right now.
Deku tried to explain, voice trailing off. Kyoko looked at him with some concern. Well, what we're doing next are mock battles. We'll get paired up, then matched up against another pair. One team is the villains, and the other is the heroes. The villains are going to be defending a fake bomb in one of the buildings in one of the battle centers. The heroes have to either incapacitate the villains or secure the bomb, Jiro said. She sighed as she noticed a look of determination creeping back onto Midoriya's face. Look, the gist of it is, it's dangerous. I think you should probably sit this one out. It won't look good if something like that happens mid-trial. And Jiro's voice trailed off. Izuku looked at her inquisitively. Never mind. I won't be able to convince you not to go, so don't break anything, all right? I don't want that blood on my hands, Kyoka said. Izuku smiled confidently. I'll be fine. If I'm going to be a hero, I won't let some silly headache stop me, the greenette said, though he didn't tell the girl that he had a lot more going on than just the headache. After all, heroes aren't supposed to get everyone worried about them. The last student to arrive at the battle center was Izuku, changed into his rather simple hero costume. He had originally wanted a costume that would be more fitting for All Might cosplay than hero work, but his mother had surprisingly stepped in. In fact, she had almost single-handedly designed Izuku's costume in a show of support for his dream. Though costume design was not something Izuku knew his mother was proficient in. The costume itself was focused on mobility, sacrificing any heavy armor. On his feet were green lightweight shoes attached to black and green track pants. There were light and flexible pads at the knees. Of course, the whole costume was made of high-quality threads, but Inko had specifically requested ones that allowed for the greatest mobility of the wearer. His chest was covered with a plate composed of the same materials as his knee pads, covered with a tracksuit with the same design as his pants. His hands and head were uncovered, though he had braces on his wrists. The boy looked around at his classmates in awe. I know I have the best costume for my quirk. These costumes are so cool, Deku thought, looking around at all the costumes around him. Uraraka, Bakugo, Ida, Aoyama, they all had such well-made costumes. He could barely stop himself from fanboying over his classmates.
Now, we will draw lots and the teams will be decided, as well as the order in which they will participate, and who will be the villains and who will be the heroes,
All Might explained. Izuku looked away from the pro hero the whole time, not wanting to risk a repeat of what happened in class.
And the next team will be Izuku Midoriya and Ichaku Uraraka,
All Might announced, his enthusiasm fading slightly as he read Uraraka's name. He realized, as well as everyone else in the group, that this pairing was not optimal. Uraraka opened her mouth to complain, but Tsuyu Asui, a student with the frog quirk, grabbed her arm before she continued. After a few seconds of awkward silence, All Might listed off the rest of the pairings. Bakugo had gotten paired with Tenya Ida. Then it came time for All Might to announce the matchups. Midoriya was giddy with excitement. Despite his complete lack of chemistry with his teammate, he was still excited. If he were matched up with him...
Going first, we have Uraraka and Midoriya as the heroes, against Bakugo and Ida as the villains,
All Might proclaimed. Izuku practically jumped with joy. I'll show you, Kachan. I'll show you how much I've grown, he thought. As the other students headed for the observation room, Ochaku begrudgingly walked towards him.
Let me do my thing and you do yours. Don't shoot me in the face again and everything should go okay.
Ochaku proposed. Izuku shook his head. Listen, I know you hate me right now, and I get that, but we need to have some sort of a plan. Those two, they're one of the strongest duos in the class. If we want to have any shot at this, you need to at least hear me out, Izuku said seriously. Ochaku looked at him, not bothering to reply. Izuku sighed and continued. I'm not going to get in your way. Once we get in, we'll split up immediately. You go find the bomb. Ida will be guarding it for sure. Secure it if you can, and if not, hold Ida back as long as you can. I'll go off in a separate direction and I'll draw out Kachan, who's bound to be around looking for me. I'll take care of him, and then I'll listen for more fighting noises and reinforce you, Deku explained. Ochaku sighed.
Well, it's pretty simple, and we don't need to interact much. I'll do it,
the brunette said. Deku offered a smile which was not returned. The pair entered the building from the third floor and put the simple plan into action. Chaku went right where Izuku went left. The greenette stomped on the ground as loud as he could while he ran, reaching a narrow hallway. Sure enough, blasting his way down a staircase at the opposite end of the hallway was Katsuki Bakugo.
Look who it is! I thought you'd be hiding somewhere. I didn't think Deku would have the balls to show up and fight me.
Bakugo roared. Deku smiled.
Call me Deku all you want, Kachan. It doesn't mean useless to me anymore. Someone made me realize that it means what I want it to mean. And since I'm not useless anymore, neither is Deku.
In the observation room, the class watched the fighters. Jiro glanced to her sides. Once she was sure no one was watching, she allowed herself a slight celebratory smile and fist bump. You tell him, Deku, she thought. Though it would take medieval torture to get her to admit it, she didn't dislike Izuku. This video is sponsored by NordVPN. Staying safe online is an ever-growing difficulty, and hackers could exploit you. NordVPN allows you to change your IP address, making you harder to track, securing your privacy. In addition to providing you with safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services. Are you tired of going through 2, 3, or even 4 streaming services to watch your favorite anime? Well, with NordVPN, you can change your country and be able to binge shows like My Hero Academia, Naruto, and many others on your favorite streaming service with just the press of a button. Check out the link in the description to get 72% off when buying 2 years at $329 a month. This deal is for a limited time. And thank you to NordVPN for sponsoring this video. Back in the battle center, the bully and the victim charged at each other.
You know what I've been doing since the exam?
Bakugo roared.
Training! Eating, sleeping, and training! Make sure a stupid extra like you doesn't even think of beating me!
Izuku heard this. I've changed, but from the sounds of it, he has too. The greenette thought. His prior knowledge on the explosive teen wouldn't be very useful.
Ah!
They were 10 meters away from each other now, letting out an animalistic cry. Bakugo fired off explosions behind him, propelling himself towards Izuku in a spiraling motion. Deku slid out of his sprint, energy charged in his palms. The greenette had a plan for this fight. He yelled,
Justice Barrage!
unleashing a rapid-fire volley of energy blasts upwards. Without missing a beat, Bakugo fired an explosion to his right, launching him away from Deku's volley. Then another explosion upwards and to the left, sending him rocketing diagonally towards Izuku. Izuku jumped off the ground, barely dodging the explosions Bakugo fired towards him. Roaring in rage, Bakugo fired a few backwards explosions that launched him towards Deku, chasing him. Ears still ringing from the near miss with the explosions, the greenette charged and fired a Justice Explosion! Towards his attacker. Sparks flew around Bakugo's right hand as he raised it, seemingly to fire an explosive counter to the ball of energy heading towards him. Then, instead of attempting a counter, he shifted it diagonally downward, dodging the projectile before it came. A hole was added to the ceiling above them in a green flash, and a loud bang as the energy ball made contact with him. Bakugo proceeded to send himself flying diagonally towards Deku with an explosion. But Deku had called his bluff counter and already had a Justice Flash charged. Izuku fired it towards the fast-approaching Bakugo right before he jumped to meet him in the air. The explosive teen fired an upwards explosion, trying to send himself downwards, avoiding the now infamous beam attack as well as the airborne Izuku. Bakugo, however, was not out of the hot water yet. Deku already had a downwards Justice Barrage charged and rained down energy blasts onto Bakugo. But Bakugo's training had affected far more than just his power. His reaction speed had improved significantly, and had always been quite good at getting out of a pinch. Bakugo launched himself backwards with a bang, away from the energy attacks, which soon put a hole in the floor, growling angrily. He felt a burning pain on his left arm as one of the projectiles had grazed him, but he ignored it. Then he rocketed himself towards Deku again. However, the greenette was ready for this. Gritting his teeth, he had charged a Justice Explosion in his palm. But he had underestimated his longtime bully's speed and wasn't able to fire it before Bakugo's hand grabbed his shirt. A wild grin appeared on Katsuki's face as he detonated a massive point-blank explosion on Deku, sending him flying downwards through the hole in the floor the greenette had made. Less than a second later, Bakugo groaned as he felt something hit his stomach, and a powerful explosion detonated on him. Deku had fired his attack just as Bakugo grabbed him. The explosive teen was sent flying upwards through the hole in the ceiling that the earlier Justice explosion had made. Izuku hit the ground, but it wasn't able to stop his descent. The boy went straight through the floor, making a Deku-shaped hole in it before finally stopping on the first floor of the building. Deku's back hurt a bit more than he'd expected it to. In fact, his whole body felt strange. It didn't hurt in the traditional sense, but it was quite uncomfortable. The dust from the floor he'd gone through covered him. His vision was blurry, and all he could hear was a high-pitched ringing in his ears. But there was a wide smile on his face. His plan was working. There were some hiccups, but it was working. Sure enough, he saw Bakugo approaching him at insane speeds, a trail of explosions and smoke behind him, and a manic look on his face. All or nothing now, Deku thought, charging up his energy.
Deku!
The angry teen yelled as he got closer and closer to his longtime victim. Bang after bang sounded with each propelling explosion the aggressive teen let off. The greenette didn't move, though he was definitely able to. The whole battle, Bakugo had been playing right into his hands, and he continued to, oblivious to his opponent's true intentions. As Bakugo got closer, Deku grinned wider. He had needed time to charge the abilities he planned to use, and needed to get into a different location. If he performed this move in the relatively narrow hallway they'd found themselves in earlier, they would have blown up all the walls nearby, which could potentially have injured Uraraka or damaged the payload. Bakugo was approaching quickly. As he got close, Deku suddenly launched himself off the ground and prepared to meet Bakugo in the air. The explosion wielder, expecting some sort of trick, fired off a few more explosions randomly to his sides, rendering his movement pattern erratic and unpredictable. No way for Deku to hit him with a Justice Flash. But that wasn't the greenette's goal. As Bakugo got less than 2 feet from the boy, he attacked.
Eat this, Deku!
He roared. With a bang that could be heard a mile away, Bakugo let off a pair of explosions, so strong they shook the building they were fighting in. But just as the explosions went off, Deku unleashed a move of his own. In a flash of green, he was surrounded by a sphere of energy. A barrier, one could say. It absorbed the shock of the explosion in its entirety, though the single attack was all it could take before dissipating. However, it did something very important. It allowed the momentum from Deku's jump to remain unaffected by Bakugo's attack. Bakugo noticed this, though Deku was inches away from him at that point. The blonde powerhouse saw everything in slow motion. He saw strength in Deku's eyes that he had never seen before. He saw the eyes of someone who knew they had won, who had beaten the unbeatable, done the impossible. His fist enveloped in green energy, Deku hit Bakugo with a mid-air punch right in the face, yelling out his new move's name.
Explosive Fist of Justice!
And in a green explosion that nearly collapsed the building on itself from its force, Bakugo was knocked unconscious, sent flying through the said building, breaking the ceiling of each floor until he flew out of the entire structure, landing limp on the rooftop. Bakugo had been completely and utterly defeated by Izuku Midoriya. Back in the observation room, All Might watched in awe.
These boys, they're the most promising students I've seen since Mirio,
the pro hero thought. However, the violent behavior of the blonde one worried him quite a bit, though not as much as the mysterious power and questionable events surrounding Izuku Midoriya. He shivered as he imagined fighting against them.
For the world's sake, I hope these boys don't turn to the side of evil.
Back in the battle center, things were going south for Ochako. She had managed to find Ida, but the boy had been extra motivated in his training before arriving to UA. Seeing that 2 people in his group of accepted students had broke UA records, Besides that, Ida was taking his role of a villain very seriously.
Pathetic hero! You will not stop me, the mighty villain, from protecting this payload!
Ida yelled, dashing behind an increasingly exhausted Ochaku. She had tried everything, levitating rocks, levitating Ida, levitating herself, but the speedy boy kicked and ran his way out of every problem she presented him. She released her quirk, which had been holding some rocks up in the air. They fell to the ground and shattered, releasing dust everywhere. She hid behind one of the few remaining pillars left in the room.
I need to finish this before he gets here.
She thought, clenching her fists. She and Ida had felt the explosion from earlier and had seen Bakugo's body fly past them. They knew who had won the battle and knew that Izuku's arrival to the payload room was inevitable. She put her hands around the pillar, activating her quirk. The pillar was now light as a feather. The dust cleared and she saw Tenya charging towards her. The girl swung the pillar at nearby pieces of debris, using the pillar like a baseball bat. The fast boy avoided all of the attacks. Ochaku tried to throw the whole pillar at him as a last resort, but her arms weren't faster than Ida's legs. The exhaust pipes on his calves flared up as he landed a devastating sidekick on Ochaku.
Ah!
The brunette cried out of pain as she felt some of her ribs break, as the force from the kick launched her across the room, the pillar floating harmlessly towards the ceiling. Tenya was taking this whole situation very seriously. However, before she could hit the wall, she landed into the hands of Izuku Midoriya.
Your time as a villain is up, Ida,
Izuku said. He was then promptly slapped in the face by Ochaku, who he was still holding. Sorry, the boy replied, embarrassed, putting Ochaku down on the ground.
I need you of all people,
she muttered, clutching her sides in pain. Izuku ignored his teammates' comments and dashed towards Ida. The blue-haired boy sped toward the brunette.
Another hero comes for me to squash,
he yelled out. He slid into a kick as he ran, but Ida was no Bakugo. He was predictable, and although he was quite powerful, Izuku's speed and strategic thinking were far superior to his. Not to mention his battle knowledge from years of watching the best pros battle villains. Izuku jumped preemptively to dodge the sliding kick he knew was coming, and drop-kicked the armored boy, launching him away. Ida got back on his feet, but before he could react, Izuku was hitting him with a punch to the gut that sent him across the room. And before the blue-haired boy could get back up, All Might's voice was heard.
The battle exam is over. Ochaku Uraraka has secured the payload,
the pro hero announced. Izuku and Tenya looked back towards the bomb and saw a panting, beat-up but determined Ochaku hugging it, as much to secure it as to stop her from falling to the ground. Izuku and Uraraka had won. A few minutes later, the group was reviewing the performance of the various members of the teams, despite the fact that Bakugo and Ochaku were both in the hospital. Although Izuku and Bakugo were certainly the more proficient fighters, Momo Yaoyorozu, a girl with a powerful creation quirk, who had gotten into UA off a recommendation, argued that Tenya and Ochaku should be awarded the MVP. Tenya for his dedication to his role and serious handling of the situation, as she put it, and Ochaku for fighting through great pain to accomplish the objective. She would also add that Bakugo ignored the objective and chased Izuku, the two of whom also caused great collateral damage to the building in their fight. After all of the battles concluded, All Might watched with a smile on his face as his group of students left the school, the sun setting over the grand building of UA. This group of students was smart, strong, and determined. He was confident that the outing he had planned for them, a trip to the unforeseen simulation joint of UA, would go wonderfully. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our patrons, BD Flames, Ethan Davis, Terry Chills, Shifter Milas, Adam Zagel, Zill, Davbeat03, and Joshua Phelps. Secondly, I'd also like to thank all of our YouTube members, Toya Costa, Rob the King, Sith Lord 906, CF2364 and Knuckles, Remu Tempest, Angel Juarez, Donald C. Stewart, Bryant Greer, and Demonized Fox. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 18 years or older to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interest by joining the recruitment Discord, using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join our team. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching, and have a great day.